So I did not actually expect to be in technology at all. I actually, in undergrad, in college, I studied political economy, and I was an activist, and I was interested in, doing something in the community or working with a nonprofit. And I moved out to California right after I graduated with the assumption that I would, join an NGO and be like a policy analyst or a researcher or something like that. And I did that for a couple of years. And I worked on some political campaigns, and I didn't really have an expectation that I would get into technology, but I had several friends that moved out to California at the same time who were in computer science. And I noticed that they had all come out to San Francisco for a very different reason, because this was like 1997, 1998, so the boom was definitely on. And I really, for economic reasons, it turns out it's actually hard to make a living as, a community organizer. So I noticed that there was a lot of activity in the technology scene, and a couple of friends basically talked me into picking up some computer skills just to be able to pay the bills. And I was pretty skeptical. And I literally, in those days, you could pick up a book on HTML and study some web design over the weekend and put it on your resume, and boom, recruiters would be ringing your phone the next day. It literally was like that. So that's exactly what I did. And what I was surprised by was that I really actually enjoyed it a lot. Very loud. It's the city, right? So I basically found a niche of being a freelance developer when there was an enormous amount of activity going on. This was like the tail end of the boom. And so I was a freelance web developer for a couple of years, and that eventually turned into building a consulting agency, which is very accidental. Basically, my wife actually was my partner during that business. And it was her idea, basically. I'm doing my freelancing, and I'm getting more and more work and more clients, and starting to get overwhelmed. And her background's in business and management, and she said, hey, why don't we incorporate, and we'll just, form a little company around the work that you're doing, and I'll manage you. She manages me already, so why not? It's a natural fit. So, basically the two of us built this company not really intending to build a big agency. But we grew organically. We hired we hired help doing some of the coding with me. I got more into organizing and managing the team, doing lots of business development. I was sort of the primary lead for clients, because I would go out and personally connect with my clients and talk to them about their projects. So as we grew, and at our peak we were about 12, 13 people. Had a little office in downtown Oakland. It became apparent that while I really enjoyed engineering, and I had learned a lot over that period of time, I wasn't really getting to do that much. I was doing mostly sales and business, essentially selling our time. And around the same time, I started learning about Lean Startup, which was coming out, I think this was probably 2010 or so. It was just starting to pick up steam, and I realized that we were working on a lot of products for our clients and then kind of handing them off. And I was never really engaged or taking ownership in any actual product development. And both my wife and I, after 10 years of running this agency, were pretty burnt out on service. And so we just decided to wrap it up and do other things. And then I made a big shift and started looking for sort of a technical leadership position in some already existing company. And that's when I landed at change.org. And they were looking for someone with my skills to kind of manage the team at the middle level. So I joined them as Director of Web Engineering, and that was the beginning of 2012. And that was a really amazing and valuable experience, because they were, a pretty rapidly growing web property at the time. But the window that I was there for about a year and a quarter was from when they were reasonably successful, but still a pretty kind of scrappy engineering team. Really talented, but still very like startup feeling. And I basically helped them apply agile development and lean startup principles to really build out and professionalize the product development team. So as they were bringing in design and bringing in product managers, we started adding more professional process to really look at how we were building the product and scaling the product. And so after doing that for a little over a year, and all of the sort of major pain points of that team we had pretty much ironed out, I started looking for a different opportunity. I was really getting more and more involved in the learning and the educational aspects of Lean Startup. I'd done some speaking at different meetups and small gatherings about Lean Startup and product development and engineering. And so when I bumped into the folks at Luxor, it really seemed like a good fit, because they're all about sort of teaching the process of doing Lean Startup. You've read Eric's book, you've read the Lean Startup book, or you've taken Steve Blank's course, and the next question is like, okay, well, how do I apply this? It definitely sounds great, but how do I actually attack my own problems in my own company, my own product development, to really apply these principles? And what Luxor is trying to do is to build a curriculum out of, rather than sort of theoretically learning the material and using lots of abstract examples, with our stuff it's more workshops where you're actually working on your product while you're doing the workshop. So you're solving your own problems with the tools and with the techniques. And that was really attractive to me, because it's both theoretical but hands-on and practical at the same time. So that kind of brings us up to today.